Good day everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today we shall be discussing on negative feedback mechanism. So before the start of this class, I will urge you not to forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel as Balance Medical. Thank you. So we shall be discussing on the negative feedback mechanism. And our contents for today's class that we shall be discussing on or focusing on are introduction to negative feedback mechanism, the types or examples of negative feedback mechanism, and the clinical correlates related to negative feedback mechanism, that is the medical application of it. So, our introduction to negative feedback mechanism. The negative feedback mechanism is the homeostatic mechanism that helps to restore the homeostatic condition back to normal after it has been charged to too high or too low. Here, the change is the stimulus that causes the sensor to detect the change and produce response to restore the condition back to normal through the effector. And hence, the effector here response is always opposite to the stimulus. The effector response is always opposite to the stimulus. It's different from the positive feedback mechanism. So, the effector is in the same direction, but in negative feedback mechanism, the effector is in opposite direction to the stimulus. And so, the examples or types of negative feedback mechanism discussing on the regulation of blood glucose, the regulation of blood pressure, the regulation of extracellular fluid, which is the ACF volume. So, the first one is the regulation of blood glucose. When the blood glucose is high, insulin is released from the pancreatic cells, which lower the blood glucose back to normal. Also, when the blood glucose is low, glucagon is released from the pancreatic cells, which raises the blood glucose back to normal. And so this works in a negative feedback mechanism. I want you to understand this well. When the blood glucose is high, insulin is released from the pancreatic cells, which restores it back to normal. And again, when it's low, glucagon is released from the pancreatic cells to restore it back to normal. And see that it's working in a negative feedback mechanism. The blood glucose gets high, insulin is released. The blood glucose becomes low, glucagon is released to balance it and return it back to normal. The second point is the regulation of blood glucose. Regulation of blood pressure. When the blood pressure is low, the cardiovascular centers in the medulla stimulate the heart to increase cardiac output so as to increase the blood pressure and return it back to normal. Also, when the blood pressure is high, the cardiovascular center in the medulla reduce stimulating impulse to the heart to reduce cardiac output so as to reduce the blood pressure back to normal. And so it works in a negative feedback mechanism. I hope you can understand that the blood pressure becomes low, cardiovascular center in the medulla stimulates the heart to increase cardiac output so as to return back to normal. And when it has returned back to normal and is getting too high, the cardiovascular center in the medulla stimulates impulse in the heart to reduce the cardiac output and so as to reduce the blood pressure back to normal. I hope you understand this. And the third point is regulation of the extracellular fluid volume. This is the ECF volume. When the ECF volume, that is the extracellular fluid volume fails, aldosterone is secreted, which causes sodium ion reabsorption and water retention, and the ECF volume returns back to normal. Also, when the ECF volume increases, aldosterone is not secreted, which causes excess sodium ion and water to be lost in urine, so that the ECF volume returns back to normal. So it works in a negative feedback mechanism. The ECF volume fails, aldosterone is secreted, which causes sodium ion reabsorption and water retention, and the ECF volume returns back to normal. Also, When the ECF volume increases, aldosterone is not secreted, which causes excess sodium in urine and water to be lost in urine so as to return the ECF volume back to normal. So this works in a negative feedback mechanism. I hope you understand this. The 3 points: regulation of blood glucose, which works in negative feedback mechanism, regulation of blood pressure, and regulation of ECF, it works in a negative feedback mechanism. So the clinical correlates, that is the medical application of this or this related to this, is the diabetes mellitus type 1. In this condition, when the blood glucose is high, the pancreas is unable to release sufficient amount of insulin to reduce the blood glucose. I hope you understand this. Diabetes mellitus type 1. In this condition of this, the blood glucose gets high, but the pancreas is unable to release sufficient amount of insulin to reduce the high blood glucose. So this comes to the end of the class for today. I'd like you not to forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as Gallant Medical. Thank you and see you next time.